Course in Miracles, Original Edition, Chapter 14, Section 4, Perception Without Deceit. What do you want? Light or darkness, knowledge or ignorance are yours, but not both. Opposites must be brought together, which means not kept apart. For opposites' separation is only in your mind, and these opposites are reconciled by union, as you are. In union, everything that is not real must disappear, because truth is union. As darkness disappears in light, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge, yet the perception must be without deceit. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge, but the perception must be without deception, for otherwise perception becomes the messenger of ignorance, rather than a helper in the search for truth. The search for truth is nothing but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is. Truth can be neither lost nor sought nor found. Truth is there, wherever you are, being within you. Yet truth can be recognized or unrecognized, false or real to you. If you hide truth, then truth becomes unreal to you because you hid the truth, which means surrounded the truth with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. Yet you cannot know this, for by hiding the truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it, and the clearer what fear conceals becomes. You cannot know this. It is not possible to convince the unknowing that they know. From the point of view of the unknowing, knowing is not true. Yet it is true because God knows it. These are clearly opposite viewpoints of what the, quote, unknowing are. To God, unknowing is impossible. Unknowing, therefore, is not a point of view at all, but merely a belief in something that doesn't exist. To God, there is no unknowing. It's just a belief in something that doesn't exist. It is only this belief in the something that doesn't exist that the unknowing have, and by it they are wrong about themselves. It is only the unknowing's belief them believing in something that doesn't exist. And by this belief in something that doesn't exist, they are wrong about themselves, the unknowing. The unknowing have defined themselves as they were not created. When you don't know the truth, it just means that you have defined yourself as you were not created. But your creation was not a point of view. Your creation was a certainty, and uncertainty brought to certainty does not retain any conviction of reality. You must have noticed the emphasis has been on bringing what is undesirable to the desirable. You must have noticed the emphasis has been on bringing what you don't want to what you do want, and you will realize that freedom must come to you this way if you consider what dissociation is. Dissociation is a distorted process of thinking whereby two systems of belief which cannot coexist are both maintained. That is dissociation. Dissociation is a distorted process of thinking whereby two systems of belief which cannot coexist are both maintained. Cognitive dissonance, dissociation. It has been recognized that if these two systems of belief that can't both be maintained are brought together, then their joint acceptance would become impossible. But if one of these belief systems is kept in darkness from the other, hidden in the unconscious, then the separation of these two belief systems seems to keep these two belief systems alive and equal in their reality. The joining of these two belief systems thus becomes the source of fear. I don't want the two opposite ways, I think, to come into one place where I see them both. I'm afraid of that because if my two belief systems meet, then acceptance of one of those belief systems has to be withdrawn. Acceptance of one of those belief systems must be withdrawn from the other one. If my two belief systems meet and join and I see them both, that's why one of them has to stay in my hidden unconscious mind. You cannot have both of these systems of belief, the system of belief of fear and the system of belief of love. You can't have them both, for each system of belief denies the other. Apart, when these two belief systems are kept apart, well, that fact is lost from sight, because each belief system in a separate place can be endowed with firm belief. But if you bring your beliefs in love and bring your beliefs in fear together, then the fact of their complete incompatibility is instantly apparent. One of those belief systems will go because the other belief system is seen in the same place. In other words, light cannot enter a mind. Light cannot enter where darkness. Light cannot enter darkness when a mind believes in darkness and won't let it go. In other words, they can't both be in the same place together. They can't both be valued once they are brought together. In other words, light cannot enter darkness when a mind believes in darkness and will not let it go. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. In other words, what needs no protection does not defend itself. Defense is of your making. God doesn't know defense. The higher mind uses defenses on behalf of truth only because you made defenses against the truth. So now your higher mind has to use your defenses on behalf of truth, since you made your defenses against the truth. Your higher mind's perception of your defenses, according to the purpose of your higher mind, merely changes your defenses into a call for what you have attacked with your defenses. Defenses, like everything you made, must be gently turned to your own good, translated by your higher mind from means of self-destruction to means of preservation and release. Your higher mind's task is mighty, but the power of God is with it. Therefore, to your higher mind, it's so easy. It's so easy that it was accomplished the instant that it was given your higher mind for you. Don't delay yourselves in your return to peace by wondering how your higher mind can fulfill what God gave your higher mind to do. Leave that to your higher mind. Leave that to the higher mind who knows. You are not asked to do mighty tasks yourself. You are merely asked to do the little that your higher mind suggests that you do, trusting your higher mind only to the small extent of believing that if the higher mind asks it, you can do it. And then you will see how easily all that the higher mind asks can be accomplished. You will see how easily all that the higher mind asks can be accomplished. How easily you will see. Your higher mind asks of you but this: bring to it every secret that you have locked away from it. That means open every door to your higher mind, to your indwelling, your divine indweller. Open every door to your divine indweller and bid your divine indweller into what you have hidden, the dark, and lighten it away. Open every door to the higher mind and bid it enter the darkness in which you have hidden something, and then lighten the darkness away. At your request, the higher mind enters gladly. The higher mind brings the light to the darkness if you make the darkness open to it. The higher mind brings the light to the darkness if you make the darkness open to it. But what you hide, the higher mind cannot look upon. Because your higher mind sees for you, then unless you look with the higher mind, he cannot see. The higher mind sees for you, but if you won't look, it can't look upon what you've hidden for you. The vision of the higher mind is not for it alone, but for it with you. So, bring therefore all your dark and secret thoughts to the higher mind within you, and look upon them with it. The higher mind holds the light, and you hold the darkness. The light the higher mind holds in you, and the darkness you hold in you, well, they can't coexist when both of you and the higher mind, look on them together. The higher mind's judgment must prevail, and the higher mind will give the higher mind's judgment to you as you join your perception to its. Joining with your higher mind in seeing, joining with the higher mind in seeing, joining with the divine indweller in seeing, is the way in which you learn to share with the divine indweller the interpretation of perception that leads to knowledge, which means certainty. You cannot see alone. And so sharing perception with the higher mind that God has given you is what teaches you how to recognize what you see. Being taught to recognize what you see. Comes from sharing perception with the higher mind. Higher mind, what do you see? Sharing perception with the higher mind whom God has given you teaches you how to recognize what you see. Sharing perception with the higher mind is the recognition that nothing you see means anything alone. Nothing you see means anything when you are looking at it alone. Seeing with your higher mind will show you that all meaning, including your meaning, comes not from double vision, but from the gentle fusing of everything into one meaning, one emotion, and one purpose. God has one purpose, and God shares that purpose with you. And the single vision which your higher mind gives you will bring this oneness to your mind with perfect clarity and brightness so intense that you couldn't wish for all the world not to accept what God would have you have. Behold what God would have you have. Behold your will, accepting it as God's. Behold what you want, accepting that that is what God wants. Behold your will, accepting your will as God's will, with all of God's love as yours. All honor to you through God. All honor to you through the higher mind and through higher mind unto God. In your hiding, you have hidden the glory of God, the glory that God gave you, which means in your hiding, you have hidden all of the power that God bestowed upon you, God's guiltless child. All the power God gave you, all the glory God gave you, lies hidden in every darkened place that you've shrouded in guilt, every place that you have hidden in the dark denial of innocence. All the glory God gave you and all the power that God gave you, all of it lies hidden in every place that you have hidden and shrouded in guilt, where you have denied your innocence. Behind the dark doors which you have closed on what you would hide lies nothing, because nothing can hide the glory and the power that God gave you. So what closes the doors that you close that hide what you would have hidden, they don't hide anything, because who you are, the glory God gave you, the power God gave you, can't be hidden. It can't be closed away and hidden. It's just the closing of the doors. It's just the attempting to hide something away from the light that interferes with the recognition of the power of God that shines in you. So don't banish power from your mind. Don't banish power from your mind. But let all that would hide your glory, let all that you're trying to hide, all that's hiding your power, let all that's hiding your power, let all that you are hiding be brought to the judgment of the higher mind in you, and let it be there undone. Whom God would save for power is saved for power. Your higher mind has promised the Creator that through it you would be released from littleness to glory. And to what your higher mind promised God, the higher mind is wholly faithful, for the higher mind shared with God the promise that was given to it to share with you. Your higher mind shares what was given it to share with you. It shares it still for you. Everything that promises otherwise, great or small, however much or little valued, your higher mind will replace with the one promise given unto the higher mind to lay upon the altar to your Creator and to you. No altar stands to God without you. and nothing brought to the altar of God that is not entirely worthy of both God and you will be replaced by gifts that are wholly acceptable to God and to you. Can you offer guilt to God? You cannot then offer guilt to God's children. Can you offer guilt to the Creator Father? You cannot then offer guilt to God's children, because God's children are not apart, which means gifts to one are offered to the other. For the children and the Creator are not apart, and so gifts given to one are gifts given to the other. You know not God because you don't know that God and God's children are not apart. And so if you offer guilt to one, you offer guilt to the other. You don't know God because you don't know that. And yet you do know God and also this. And yet you do know God and also this. All this is safe within you, where the Holy Spirit shines. Holy Spirit doesn't shine in division. Your right mind, your higher mind doesn't shine in division. Your higher mind shines only in the meeting place where God, united with you, speaks to you through your higher mind. That's where your higher mind shines. This holy meeting place of the unseparated Creator and you lies in your higher mind and in you. And all interference in the communication that God Himself wills with you is quite impossible within you in your higher mind. Unbroken and uninterrupted love flows constantly between your Creator and you, as both would have it be. And so it is. Don't let your minds wander through darkened corridors away from light's center. You may choose to lead yourselves astray, but you can only be brought together by the guide appointed for you. The guide appointed for you will surely lead you to where God and God's children await your recognition. God and all of God's creations, not only do they await your recognition, they are joined in giving you the gift of oneness before which all separation vanishes. Unite with what you are. You cannot join with anything except reality. God's glory and your glory belong to you in truth. God's glory and your glory, they have no opposite. And so nothing else can you bestow upon yourselves. There is no substitute for truth, and truth will make this plain to you as you are brought into the place where you must meet with truth, as you are brought into the place where you must meet with truth. the higher mind in you. Truth will make this plain to you. What? That there is no substitute for truth. And there, in this place where it is obvious, this place where you are brought, where it is obvious that there is no substitute for truth, there you must be led through gentle understanding, which can lead you nowhere else, to this place within you where you must meet with truth. You must be led through gentle understanding, which can lead you nowhere else. Where God is, there are you. Such is the truth. Such is the truth. Nothing can change the knowledge given you by God into unknowingness. That's because everything God created knows its creator. For this is how creation is accomplished by the Creator and by His creations. In the holy meeting place are joined the Creator and its creations, and the creations of their creations with them together. There is one link which joins them all together, holding all these creations, the Father, Creator, and the creations, and all their creations. There is one link which joins them all together, holding them in the oneness out of which creation happens. The link with which the Creator joins itself to those the Creator gives the power to create like it can never be dissolved. Heaven itself is union with all of creation and with creation's one Creator. Heaven itself is union with all of creation and with its one Creator. And heaven remains the will of God for you. Lay no gifts other than this gift upon your altars, your minds, your altars, for nothing can coexist beside it. Here in this altar in your mind, your meager offerings are brought together with the gift of God, and only what is worthy of your Creator will be accepted by you, for whom the gifts were intended. To whom God gives Himself, God is given. And your little gifts to yourself and to God, they will vanish on the altar where God has placed God's own gifts. Your little gifts will vanish on the altar in your mind where God has placed His own gifts. The recognition of holiness. This healing plan doesn't make holy. You were created holy. This plan, this Course in Miracles healing plan, merely brings unholiness to holiness, or in other words, this plan, this healing plan, just brings what you have made to what you are. And the bringing together of truth and illusion, of the ego to God, of what you made to what you are, that is your higher mind's only function, bring those together. So don't keep your making from your Creator, because hiding what you have made has cost you the knowledge of your Creator and also of yourselves. The knowledge of yourself and your Creator, it's safe. But wherein is your safety apart from the knowledge of yourself and of your Creator? The making of time to take the place of timelessness, well, that lay in the decision to be not as you were. When you decided not to be as you are, and to forget what you are, when you forget what your source is, that is, that for that you made time. The making of time to take the place of timelessness lay in the decision to be not as you were. That's how truth was made past. You decided to not be as you are. And so the truth was made past in that moment. And then the present was dedicated to illusion. And the past too was changed and then interposed between what always was and now. The past which you remember never was. And the past that you remember represents only the denial of what always was. The past that you remember but represents your denial of what always was. That was you denying what always is. That's all that you remember of your past. What you remember of your past was just the way that you were denying the truth, denying what always is. And so, bringing your ego to God is but bringing your error to truth. Where your error, where your ego stands corrected, because your error and your ego is the opposite of what it meets. And there it is undone. When your ego, when your errors meet with their opposite, they are done. Your ego and your errors are undone. Because now the contradiction can no longer stand. When your ego and your errors are brought to their opposite, the ego and your errors are undone, because the contradiction between them can no longer stand. How long can contradiction stand when its impossible nature is clearly revealed? What disappears in light is not attacked. What disappears in light is not attacked. What disappears in light has merely vanished because it is not true. Different realities are meaningless because reality must be one. Reality cannot change with time or mood or chance. Reality must be one. That's why different realities are meaningless. For reality must be one. And that's why reality cannot change with time or mood or chance. Reality's changelessness is what makes reality real. What reality is cannot be undone. Undoing is for unreality. And this reality will do for you. Undoing is for unreality. And undoing is what reality will do for you. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that is not true. Everything that truth is not. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that truth is not. The plan for correction of the errors and correction of the ego, the plan for the correction of the ego and correction of the ego's errors is so gentle that you need but whisper to this plan, and all the plan's power will rush to your assistance and your support. You are not frail with God beside you. You are not frail with God beside you, yet without God you are nothing. And the healing plan This healing plan offers you God. The gift which you refused, well, that's held by your higher mind in you. Your higher mind's spirit holds that plan, that healing plan, in you, for you. God hasn't left God's altar in your mind, even though God's worshiper placed other gods upon the altars in their mind. But the temple, your mind, still is holy. Your mind, the temple of God, still is holy, even though you chose to put other things on the altar and worship it. Your mind still is holy. The temple still is holy. Your mind still is holy, even though you brought in other things beside what is worthy of love and placed it on the altars in your mind, and worship other things besides love on the altars in your mind. Your mind still is holy. Why? Because of the presence that dwells within your mind is holiness. And that's why your mind is still holy, even though you have worshipped illusions upon the altar to God in your mind. Your mind still is holy. The temple of your mind still is holy, because the presence that dwells in the holy temple in your mind is holiness. In your mind, in the temple of your mind, holiness itself waits quietly for you, the return of you that love it. The presence knows that you will return to purity and to grace, because it knows that the graciousness of God will take you gently in and cover all your sense of pain and loss with the immortal assurance of your Father's love. And there, when the graciousness of God takes you gently in and covers all your sense of pain and loss with the immortal assurance of God's love, there, when that happens, your fear of death will be replaced with the joy of living. Because God is life, and you abide in life. Life is as holy as the holiness by which life was created. And so the presence of holiness lives in everything that lives, because holiness created life. And so holiness doesn't leave what it created holy as itself. And that's why the presence of holiness lives in everything that lives. Because holiness created life, and holiness leaves not what holiness created holy as itself. In this world, you can become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. In this world, you can become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. You can reflect heaven here. In other words, you can reflect heaven here. Yet no reflections of the images of other gods must dim the mirror that would hold God's reflection in the mirror that is you. Earth can reflect heaven or hell, Earth can reflect God or the ego. You need but leave the mirror clean. You need but leave the mirror of your mind clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness, things that you would hide, that have drawn upon the mirror of your mind. You need but leave the mirror of your mind clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness that you have drawn upon the mirror of your mind, the mirror that you are. In this world, you can become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. In other words, you can reflect heaven here, yet no reflections of the images of other gods must dim the mirror that would hold God's reflection in it. Earth can reflect heaven or hell. Earth can reflect God or the ego. You need but leave the mirror clean that you are, and clear of all the images of hidden darkness you have drawn upon the mirror that you are, and then God will shine upon the mirror that you are of Himself. And only the clear reflection of God Himself can be perceived upon the mirror that you are in this world, on earth. Reflections are seen in light. In darkness, reflections are obscured. Only the clear reflection of God Himself can be perceived upon this mirror that you are. Reflections are seen in light. In darkness, reflections are obscure, and reflections' meaning seem to lie only in their shifting interpretations rather than in themselves. In darkness, in fear, when they are hidden. The reflection of God needs no interpretation. The reflection of God is clear. And so, if you but clean the mirror that you are, clean but the mirror in your mind, and the message which shines forth from what the mirror holds out for everyone to see, no one can fail to understand. It is the message that your higher mind is holding to the mirror that is in you. What they see is the mirror, is the message that the higher mind is holding to the mirror that is in you. Is what they see, what others see, what everyone sees in you, is the message that your higher mind is holding to the mirror that is you. They will recognize this message of love because they have been taught their need for this message of love. They just didn't know where to look to find it. Let them then see Spirit's message in you, in the mirror that is you, and let them share that message of love with you. Let them then see the reflection of love's message in the mirror that is you, and share that message with you. Could you but realize for a single instant the power of healing that the reflection of God shining in you can bring to all the world, you couldn't wait to make the mirror of your mind. You couldn't wait to make the mirror of your mind clean to receive the image of the guiltlessness that will not change. could you but realize for a single instant the power of healing that the reflection of God shining in you could bring to all the world, you couldn't wait to make the mirror of your mind clean, to receive the image of guiltlessness that heals the world. The image of guiltlessness which shines in your mind isn't hidden, and it won't change. The meaning of the reflection of guiltlessness in the mirror of your mind, well, that meaning is clear to those who look upon it, because everyone perceives that reflection the same as the same. How is it that everyone perceives that reflection of guiltlessness in the mirror of your mind? How is it that they see it all the same? Well, they all see it the same. They all bring their different problems to its healing light. They all react the same to the reflection of God in the mirror of your mind. Everybody responds to that reflection of God in your mind. They all respond to it the same. They all bring their different problems to its healing light. But all their problems are met only with healing there, where the reflection of God, God's loving reflection upon the mirror, in the mirror of your mind. The response of holiness to any form of error is always the same. And that's because there is no contradiction in what holiness calls forth. Its one response is healing. The one response of holiness is healing. The response of innocence to any form of error is always the same. There's no contradiction in what holiness calls forth. Holiness's one response, love's one response, is healing, without regard for what is brought to it. Love's one response is healing. Holiness's one response is healing. Truth's one response is healing, without regard for what is brought to it. And so those who have learned to offer only healing because of the reflection of guiltlessness in them, they are ready at last for heaven. There, in heaven, in reality, holiness isn't a reflection, but rather the actual condition of what was but reflected to them here. God is no image, in other words, and God's creations are part of God. So hold God. Hold God in them in truth. There, in heaven, in reality, holiness isn't a reflection, but rather the actual condition of what was but reflected to them here. God is no image, in other words, and God's creations, as part of Him, hold God in them in truth. Those God created do not merely reflect truth, for they are truth. Chapter 14, Section 6, The Shift to Miracles. When no perception stands between God and God's creations, or between God's children and their own children, their own creations, then the knowledge of creation must continue forever. The reflections which you accept in the mirror of your minds in time, but bring eternity nearer or farther. Nearer or farther. But eternity itself is beyond all time. Reach out of time and touch time with the help of eternity's reflection in you. And then you will turn from time to holiness, as surely as the reflection of holiness calls everyone to lay aside all guilt. In other words, reflect the peace of heaven here. And that's how you bring this world to heaven. Reflect in the mirrors of your mind the peace of heaven here. And that's how you bring this world to heaven. For the reflection of truth draws everyone to truth. The reflection of truth draws everyone to truth. And as everyone enters into truth, everyone leaves all reflections behind. In heaven, reality is shared and not reflected. In heaven, reality is shared and not reflected. But by sharing heaven's reflection here on earth, heaven's truth becomes the only perception that the children of God accept. And in this way, remembrance of our Creator dawns on us, which means we can no longer be satisfied with anything but our own reality. When the remembrance of your Creator dawns upon your mind, you can no longer be satisfied with anything but your own reality. You on earth have no conception of limitlessness, because the world you seem to live in is a world of limits. In this world, it is not true that anything without order of difficulty can occur. And so the miracle, therefore, has a unique function, and so the miracle is motivated by a unique teacher who does what? Who brings the laws of another world to this world. In this world, it seems like there's an order of difficulty in everything, because the world is a world of limits. And so the miracle, therefore, has a unique function here and is motivated by a unique teacher who brings the laws of another world to this world. And so the miracle is the one thing that you can do that transcends order, being based not on differences, but on equality. The miracle is the one thing that you can do that transcends order of difficulty, because the miracle is based not on differences, but on equality. Miracles are not in competition, which means the number of miracles that you can do is limitless. The miracles that you can do can be simultaneous and legion. And you doing simultaneous and legion miracles, this is not difficult. This is not difficult to understand, that you could do all of that once you can conceive of miracles as possible at all. What is more difficult to grasp is the lack of order of difficulty, which stamps the miracle as something that must come from somewhere else. Somewhere from elsewhere, meaning not from here. What is more difficult to grasp is the lack of order of difficulty, which stamps the miracle as something that must come from elsewhere, which means not from here. From the world's viewpoint, that's impossible, that there be no order of difficulty in miracles at all. But you have experienced lack of competition among your thoughts, which even though your thoughts may conflict, your thoughts can occur to you together and in great numbers. From the world's viewpoint, you can't experience all these miracles simultaneous and legion at one time. You can't experience or do simultaneous and legion miracles from the world's viewpoint. But you have experienced lack of competition among your thoughts, which even though your thoughts may conflict, can occur to you together and in great numbers. You are so used to this that it can cause you little surprise. You can have miracles occur simultaneous and legion, just like you can have ego thoughts occurring simultaneous and legion at the same time. Having ego thoughts simultaneous and legion, that you are used to, and that causes you little surprise. What's more difficult to grasp is that there's no order of difficulty in miracles, which means you can do and work miracles simultaneous and legion. Yet you are also used to classifying some of your thoughts as more important, larger or better, wiser or more productive, and some thoughts more valuable than others. You are used to classifying some of your thoughts. And this is true about the thoughts which cross the minds of those who think they live apart. It is true. In the minds of those who think they live apart, then some thoughts are more important, larger, better, wiser, more productive, valuable than other thoughts in the minds of those who think they live apart. For some of the thoughts in your mind are reflections of heaven, while other thoughts in your mind are motivated by your ego, which but seems to think. The result is a weaving, changing pattern of your thoughts in your mind, which never rests and is never still. Your mind seems to shift unceasingly. Thoughts seem to shift unceasingly across the mirror of your mind, and the reflections of heaven last but a moment and grow dim as darkness blots them out. Where there was light in your mind, darkness removes that light in an instant, and alternating patterns of light and darkness sweep constantly across your minds. The little sanity which still remains in your mind is held together by a sense of order which you establish. Yet the very fact that you can establish any order in your mind the way it is, the fact that you can bring any order into the chaos in your mind, shows you that you are not an ego. And it proves that more than an ego must be in you. The fact that you can impose any order on the chaos in your mind shows that you're not an ego, and that more than your ego must be in you. Because your ego, what's going on in your mind, is chaos. And if the ego were all of you, then no order at all would be possible. And so the fact that you can impose any order on your mind and your thinking at all shows that you're not an ego, because if you were only an ego, the ego is chaos, and if the ego were all of you, no order at all would be possible in your minds. Yet though the order which you impose upon your minds limits the ego, that order you've imposed upon your mind also limits you. To order is to judge, which means to arrange by judgment. To order is to judge. To order is to arrange by judgment. Therefore, ordering is not your function. but the higher minds. It will seem difficult for you to learn that you have no basis at all for ordering or judging your thoughts. This lesson, how to order your thoughts, your higher mind teaches by giving you shining examples to show you that your way of ordering your thoughts is wrong, but that a better way is offered you. Right thoughts, miracles, offer exactly the same response to every call for help. Right thoughts, loving thoughts, offer exactly the same response to every call for help. Right thoughts, the miracle, doesn't judge the call for help. A miracle, a right thought, merely recognizes what the call for help is and answers accordingly. The miracle, the right thought, the loving thought, doesn't consider which call for help is louder or greater or more important. You may wonder how you, who are still bound to judgment and ordering things, can be asked to do that which requires no judgment at all of your own. Well, the answer is very simple. The power of God, and not of you, engenders these miracles, these right thoughts. The miracle itself, the right thought, the loving thought itself, is but the witness that you have the power of God in you. And that you have the power of God in you. That's the reason why your right thoughts, your loving thoughts, give equal blessing to all who share in it. And that is also why everyone does share in the miracle. The power of God that is in you is limitless. And being always maximal, the power of God in you offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here in what love, in what the power of God in you offers to everyone, to everything, to every call from anyone. The power of God, the love of God within you, the right thoughts within you. There is no limit in what it offers. It offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here in what the power of God within you offers to everyone. In other words, a call for help is given help. It makes no difference what form the call comes in. The power of God in you, the miracle in you, the right thought in you offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here in what the power of God in you offers to everything, every call from anyone. A call for help is given help from the power of God within you. The only judgment at all that is involved is the higher mind's one division into two categories, one of love and the other the call for love. There's only one division into two categories. There's only one judgment involved in correct perception, in the higher mind's perception. Only one judgment involved, one division into two categories, and that one category is love and the other one is a call for love. And you cannot safely make this division. Is this love or call for love? You cannot safely make this division because you are much too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else is nothing but a need for love. You are too confused. And that's why you cannot safely make that division, love or call for love, because you are too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else besides of love is nothing but a need for love. You are too bound to form and not to content. You are too bound to form and not to content. What you consider content isn't content at all. What you consider content is merely form and nothing else. For you do not respond to what another really offers you. You only respond to the particular perception of their offering by which your ego judges their offering. Your ego, the ego, is incapable of understanding content. And the ego is totally unconcerned with content. To the ego, if the form is acceptable, well, the content must be acceptable. Otherwise, the ego attacks the form. If the form isn't acceptable to the ego attacks the form. The ego never sees content. You who believe that you understand something of the dynamics of the mind, let me assure you that you know nothing of the dynamics of the mind at all. Because of yourselves, you could not know the dynamics, something of the dynamics of the mind. In the study of the ego, that's not the study of the mind. In fact, the ego enjoys the study of itself, and the ego thoroughly approves the undertakings of students who would analyze the ego, approving the ego's importance. Yet these students but study form with meaningless content when they are studying the ego. Because these students, their teacher, the teacher of these students, is senseless. Even though their teacher, the teacher of the students who are studying the ego, their teacher is senseless, though careful to conceal this fact behind a lot of words which sound impressive, but which lack any consistent sense when they are put together. The teacher of the students who are studying the ego, the teacher of the students who are studying the ego, that teacher, their teacher is senseless. Though their teacher is careful to conceal this fact behind a lot of words which sound impressive, but which lack any consistent sense when they are put together. This teacher, their teacher, the teacher of the students who are studying the ego. The students who are studying the ego but study form with meaningless content. This is the characteristic of all of the ego's judgments. Separately, all of the ego's judgments seem to hold, but if you put all of the ego's judgments together and the system of thought which arises from the ego judgments, the system of thought which arises from joining them is incoherent, which means utterly chaotic. Because form isn't enough for meaning, and the underlying lack of content makes a cohesive system of the ego's judgments impossible. Separation therefore remains the ego's chosen condition, because no one alone can judge the ego truly. Yet when two or more join together in searching for the truth, The ego can no longer defend its lack of content. The fact of union tells those students that separation isn't true. In other words, it's impossible to remember God in secret and alone, because remembering God means you are not alone, and remembering God means you are willing to remember that you are not alone. Take no thought for yourself, for no thought is for yourself. If you would remember your Creator, then let your higher mind order your thoughts, and let your higher mind give only the answer with which your higher mind answers you. Everyone seeks for love as you do, and everyone doesn't know love unless they join with you in seeking love. If you undertake the search for love together, then you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is given meaning. When you join in searching for truth together, if you undertake the search for love and truth together, then you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is given meaning. And then the lonely journey fails because it has excluded what it would find. As God communicates to the higher mind in you, then so does the higher mind in you translate God's communications through you so that you can understand them. As God communicates to the higher mind in you, the higher mind in you translates its communications through you so that you can understand them. God has no secret communications because everything of God is perfectly open and freely accessible to all, being for all. Nothing lives in secret. And that means that what you would hide from your higher mind is nothing, because nothing lives in secret. What lives in secret? Nothing. And so what you would hide from the truth, from the higher mind in you, is nothing. And every interpretation you would lay upon another, senseless. So, let your higher mind, the higher mind in you, show them to you, and let your higher mind teach you both their love and their need for love. Let the higher mind in you show them to you, and let the higher mind in you teach you that both their love and their need for love, show them to you. Neither their mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought. The miracle is the recognition that that's true, that their mind and your mind hold nothing but love or the need for love. Where there is love, others must give that love to you because of what that love is. But where there is a need for love, you must give because of what you are. Long ago we said this course will teach you what you are. That means this course will restore to you your identity. We have already learned that this identity that this course will restore to you, that identity is shared. We have already learned long ago, we have already learned that this identity is shared. And then the miracle becomes the means of sharing this shared identity. By supplying your identity wherever it is not recognized, That is how you will recognize your true identity. And God Himself, who wills to be with you forever, will bless every recognition of His children with all the love that He offers to His children. God Himself, who wills to be with God's children forever, will bless every recognition. God will bless every one of your recognition of His children with all the love that He holds for His children. Which means the power of all God's love will not be absent from any miracle that you offer to anyone. How then can there be any order of difficulty among miracles?